Good morning. Thank you for joining us on our WLOX streaming platforms for Expert Alert. We're here on Thursday mornings talking to the experts. Now listen, if you would like to ask our expert a question, find us over on the Facebook page if you haven't yet. We're live on the WLOX TV Facebook page. And then at the bottom of this video that is running live right now, you can ask questions. And then I will ask your questions to our expert. And today it is Justin Allen from eAgent. How are you this morning?
Doing good, doing good.
Good to have you back. So we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus on investment properties because this is how you got into the business.
Yep.
Way back in the 1900s.
Way back, yeah, way back.
It doesn't feel like that was. We were just talking off camera with Kyle a few moments ago. The 1900s doesn't feel that long ago, but.
You know, it's one of those weird things where it feels like it's a lifetime ago and it feels like it was last week.
Yeah.
It is kind of odd how that happens because, you know, I'll talk to somebody, you know, that I haven't, you know, heard from in a while and I'm like, God, it's been like 25 years and it's like.
Since 2001.
I know.
But it's like, I think about, that was when I was, those late 90s were when I was in college. And when I think about the late 90s being far away, college feels further away.
It does, yeah. It's a different you, right? It's a different you. I think.
So, welcome. This was our brain before we started the show. So today we're talking about investment properties. Again, we mentioned that's how you got in the business. So what was it about investment properties that made you say, hey, I want to do this?
Well, back in the 1900s,
Yeah.
you know, early 90s, I was watching those late night infomercials with Carlton Sheets, no money down, and all those kind of things before. Before the internet, you know, and just, you know, really just interested in it, and of course all of that kind of stuff. And being an entrepreneur at heart, I think that was kind of draw me to it, and that's how I get licensed. Actually, I wanted to get access to the MLS and have access to comp data and figure out things and look at, you know, just the data that you had access to. So that's really where I got into being licensed back in 2002. But I started buying my first investment property in '96, so it's been quite a while.
I hate that you said that's been quite a while. That's when I graduated from high school.
Yeah.
And that's my 30-year reunion is this year. So yes, that has been quite a while. What have you seen change in the industry aside from everything? What have you seen change? Now, I know that, well, let's factor out technology because that is a whole game changer in and of itself. That's the kind of the disruptor.
Yeah.
But what have you seen change since when you got in to right now?
I think people are really still facing the same issues. When it comes to investment property, like I buy investment property for myself, either to wholesale to another investor, to fix up and put it back on the market, those kind of things, and you know, solve problems. I think that I think it's really all the same, really. I was doing like seminars back for other investors back in early 2000s, 2004, 05. And I had somebody recently listen to one of the audios from there, and he goes, man, everything that you're teaching today to investors, you taught 25 plus years ago. And he said the only thing that was really standing out was some of the digital stuff. And he said you were mentioning MapQuest, you know, and different stuff like that.
I
and
forgot
I was
about
like,
MapQuest.
I know, because you had to you know, print out 8 pages to go 4 blocks. And I think that was really, because when it comes to investment property, you're solving a problem where the property has a problem or the owners have a problem. They don't necessarily know how to navigate. And one of it being, if you look at the property has either got some issues, needs to be updating, you know, it needs a roof, it's got some hurricane damage, maybe the insurance didn't go all the way, they misappropriated the funds, whoever, you know, whatever happens. But there's also a lot of problems that people have in their lives when it comes to like having to get a divorce or, you know, having to move to another job out of town, and now you've got a property that you're paying 2 mortgages on or renting a mortgage, and it's being a drain. You know, there's just inherited properties. There's a lot of different things that go on with the certain circumstances for the owners that I tend to come in as an investor and solve the problem. Not necessarily as an agent, although me as an agent can solve some of those problems too if the situation allows for it and if they're okay with it. But a lot of times I also give them an offer from me to buy the property in a multitude of different ways. And some of those ways can be that I partner with the owner to solve the problem, and it gives me the ability to not having to go get a loan and buy the house or pay cash, and then that way I get more, or I get less holding costs, but they end up getting more out of the property as far as equity or something like those lines.
I was going to say, I remember hearing I remember seeing there's investors on there, and it wasn't here. It's just when I was living in Florida. But it's like, you know, you have these like massive brokerages, and they're like, we will list your house, and if it doesn't sell in 60 days, we buy it.
Yeah. There's certain ways to do
That's a
that.
little different from what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can do that too. Sometimes I've worked out a deal where the seller had a decent amount of equity. He was paying 2 mortgage notes. The property needed some repairs, and I knew it was going to take longer than what he was comfortable with on the market. And I made a deal with him till I basically paid his mortgage until we sold it. But then I went in and put in several $1,000s worth of upgrades and painted the whole house and removed a lot of stuff and got the property sold. But then I got a piece of the equity too, because I was able to partner with him, and of course that was part of it.
Sure.
And in Mississippi, there's you can't do a net listing where it's illegal to do a net listing, which would be somewhat of a way for me to like get a higher commission. I had it under contract, and I was purchasing the property, and I was able to release that contract to let somebody else step in, so then I was shared in the equity. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. It just depends on the person's situation and then also the property situation, and trying to figure out a good win-win solution for both parties.
What about those folks who maybe are looking at the tax rolls that see that there are homes out? I just saw this on social media within the last week. I think it's because Kyle and I were talking about this segment, and my phone heard me. And it sent me this information.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what happened. I don't know, but I just feel like.
Yeah.
But there were 3 or 4 houses in Harrison County that were like, you know, the taxes haven't been paid in more than a decade. The house is not run down, but it hasn't been lived in a while.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the taxes were like $3,500 for and it was like a 2-1, like a 1,100 square foot 2-1, but it was on like a half an acre.
Yeah.
And the tax liability was significantly lower, but it would need a good bit of work. Is that something that, for people who are maybe able to make repairs themselves and have the time and aren't looking to move into a house, but is that kind of an investment opportunity that you would look at, or that you would suggest somebody keep an eye on?
For sure. There's a lot. I'm dealing with a property right now I've got listed that's a little small 2-1, around 800 square feet, a little octagon house over in Gulfport, and the owner had picked it up from a tax sale. And you know, we have it listed for like 44,000, and but it needs a lot of work. But it's only 800 square feet. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, almost like a little studio 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And that is actually an aspect of doing it with. You have an investor that will want to buy it as well, but you also have investors where let's say that I come in. Let's say you're an owner, and you have a situation with the property, or you needed to leave, or whatever the issue is, and a lot of times it's financial because they're not able to do 2 mortgage notes, and I come in, structure a deal that's best for you, but it may not be best for me, but I can take on an investor partner that can come in and maybe fill in some of the financial gaps, or maybe there's 30 or 40,000 in work that needs to be done to the property. Sometimes I've partnered with a contractor. So they do the work, and then we both share in the property, the equity when we go to sell it. So
that's you have an understanding of how this process works, but you're able to help other folks and involve yourself and your investor partners in these situations to help them get the best bang for their buck as well. Yeah, because it really has to be a win-win. I'm super transparent with anybody that I work with. Even investors or some people that maybe want to wholesale a property to me, they found the deal and they come to me with it. Sometimes that happens. But a lot of times I'm trying to work out a deal where it's win-win, and at the end of the day, the seller gets their problem solved and they feel good about it, to the point to where they give me a testimonial. That's the ultimate at the end of the day. That's what I'm looking for. And a lot of times, they have friends or somebody that comes up, with an issue like that, and they'll send them to me as well, so I get a referral that way. So it's a great business to be in. It's not for the faint heart sometimes, because it can be a lot of stress, and things happen on the property that you're not really expecting, or a hurricane comes through and weren't expecting that last week. So. Mm-hmm. So a lot of variables, but I've over the last 20, 25 years, I've been able to deal with a lot of them. I sense that whenever I'm watching, you can watch these like house flipping, zombie house.
Yeah.
Zombie house is my favorite one because they go in and buy something that just looks unsightly, and they're like, oh, we're gonna invest $75,000 in this. We have a $100,000 renovation budget, and then they pull the floors up and the joists are bad, and it's like you always find something that's like, well, that's going to hit our budget for $30,000. We didn't anticipate. There tends to be with houses similar to what we're talking about. This is a possibility.
It is, but I've learned over a period of time, the older the house, the more the surprise budget needs to be.
Sure.
Especially if it's on piers, and you can automatically think, let's say that you go in and you can do an amazing renovation job in the kitchen, and it looks great, but now that renovation the job in the kitchen makes the rest of the house look terrible.
Sure.
Which the kitchen was the main problem. The rest of the house didn't look bad, but now it looks bad because the kitchen is so nice.
Yeah.
So now you've got to go in and do things that you maybe weren't expecting, or you open this wall up and realize, okay, now there was more issues there, and you go through that, and you're like, oh, there's now additional subfloor here and more termites there, and that wasn't factored in. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta think about that stuff. What is, in terms of the general market? You have some market trends here. How's the market looking right now?
It's still looking great for the summertime. I think generally, as far as the coast is concerned, it's about 70 days on market. You look at Gulfport, it's about 60, and then Biloxi Ocean Springs is about 40. But when you're looking at, let's say it's a seller's market or buyer's market, it's still somewhat of a seller's market, not heavy seller's market, but just a little bit into the seller's market side.
I mean, I'm still seeing neighborhoods. I'm still seeing land get cleared.
Yep.
I live off of Pops Ferry Road, and there's one there's a neighborhood going in right next to the Mississippi State Extension Center. There's like 200 and some odd houses.
300.
300.
300 homes. DSLD's building that subdivision out. Yeah. It's nice.
I mean, it's like my whole life, childhood. It's like that street's been full of woods and trees.
Yeah.
And it's like now they're clearing out all of that now because they have to, and they just like cleared the whole thing. And I think there's a school going in next to on the old Kennedy Engine property.
Yep.
I think that's going to be that's going to be a school. So it's like you can't put up 300 homes without putting in new schools somewhere.
Yeah, of course. But it's also a growing area. The North Bay area has always been really a big, nice area. I used to live in Sunkist back in the early 2000s too. When I first got married, it was a great little area, and I remember there was just a 2-lane road there. And I remember way back. Well, I had no reason, but I had to go to the Coliseum when I was maybe a teenager. Like I wasn't driving for long. And I remember going, off the interstate at Cedar Lake, and I just remember it being woods and like these barbed wire fences.
Oh yeah.
I just remember that was like my first thing outside of like Highway 90 Biloxi. It was like rural Biloxi.
Which is
it was
odd
all
to
barbed
think
wire
about the
fences.
Cedar Pops intersection.
Yeah,
it's one of the busiest intersections in the city, and it's like it used to be very woods filled.
Yeah.
The property that's right there on the southwest corner is still there. And when I was a kid, it used to have horses and cows. That's not there anymore, but that property is still
there. Surprisingly, I'm like, whoever they're holding out for, it must be a fortune, or they're just not going to sell. I don't know, but I'm always curious about that corner. Yeah.
I feel like eventually
it'll
have to be rezoned, I'm sure, because that business district. I mean, but anyway,
I don't think it's agricultural.
It's massive.
Yeah.
It's a massive piece of property. It used to be all kind of livestock there. So for those individuals who might be interested in kind of dabbling in the investor side of real estate, what is your first key piece of advice?
Come to our Mississippi Coast Real Estate Investor Association meetings. Come the first Tuesday of every month at the Gulf Coast Association of Realtors here on DeBees Road, 141 DeBees Road. First Tuesday of every month from 6 to 8 p.m. It's free. You just get introduced maybe to a topic, a speaker, those kind of things, network some other investors, and just kind of get a good feel for it. Maybe get some resources as well. Ask around, how'd you start investing, those kind of things. When I first started investing, I had no money to buy like any courses, or there wasn't any YouTube, all that kind of stuff. You didn't have access, and libraries didn't have access to this stuff. So what I did was when I found a deal, when I early started, I found a deal from somebody, but I didn't have enough money or time to take it down or experience. I partnered with somebody else, and part of the deal was when I partnered with this investor, I got access to their library of courses, right? So I'd bring them home, listen to them, whatever, bring them back to them, and the next deal I would do it with a different investor so I get access to their courses. So that's how I ended up doing it. But ultimately, you end up getting around other investors, starting to find a mentor, and and then partner with people that have more experience than you. So then when you're doing the deal, you have an experienced person there that you're seeing in real time work the deal and work through the variables that just kind of surprise you.
Yeah, we here at WLOX partner with GCAR, which is the Gulf Coast
Yeah.
Association of Realtors, and we partner with them. We do we partner in some events with them, and I was at one of those sessions 2 or 3, maybe 4 months ago, and I learned a ton. They were talking about different financing ways, specifically for folks who are investing, to be able to shield some of that. It was, and I don't remember enough now to talk about it, but I didn't walk in expecting to learn a terribly large amount, and I was just like, I can't even believe that's available.
Yeah, there's so many different variables available to investors. There's a lot of times where I'll work out a creative way to work with the seller to solve the problem that normally a cash offer won't solve. I think personally, when somebody makes a cash offer, I would say 70-80% of the time, the seller, it doesn't address their problems. And really getting to the meat and potatoes of what the seller's issues are. For somebody like myself that's more seasoned and trying to create some maybe different scenarios, that's really what it comes down to. The more I know the problem, the more I've got a solution for it. And it's not just homes too. I buy a lot of land, acreage. I work with a lot of builders that we're trying to always look for developments coming up, those kind of things. So land, homes, multifamily, commercial property, anything. I'm your go-to guy when you're a motivated seller and you need to have it done now.
Motivated.
I'm the guy.
You got to be motivated.
Well, I can still help you list the property and get it for sale too. But I mean, when you have certain constraints that maybe the market's not going to solve that problem, for you as soon as you want, there are other ways of doing it, and I can help you do that.
Perfect. We have a video, speaking of what you have available.
This is actually, when you're looking at an investment property, this is just over a Bayview subdivision just south of the elementary school. It's a fantastic location. I love this location. But it's a little house that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was built in 1950, and I love the way it sits off the road there, and it sits at like this 45-degree angle instead of just like that normal look. But it's got kind of like this ranch bungalow kind of feel to it, and a lot of the big ticket items have already been done. A few years ago, I had a roof done, the AC's been replaced, new hot water heater that's gas, tankless. The kitchen's been remodeled, got new quartz, new appliances, and that kind of stuff. So it's really just a lot of the cosmetic, paint, carpet, those kind of ticket items. And there's a garage in the back that needs to be kind of converted. It was a workshop now, but it needs to be converted back to a garage to make it kind of a working parking area. But other than that, I think it's a fantastic property that I think if somebody wants to buy an investment property or live in and build that sweat equity for 2 years, 3 years, something like that, it gives them a great position to maybe build in 40 to 50, maybe 60,000 in equity. And this one is at 219.
Did you? How did you make those lights come on in that shot? Was that?
That's my photographer.
Was that post production?
That's post production photographer. That he kind of gets there sometimes at dusk, and then he kind of maneuvers a lot of things in.
But did those lights really come on?
No.
Okay. I was like, because
you got to have everything going on. We got to really pay attention these days because early on, like it wasn't the same photographer now, but early on, back in maybe 2014, 15, I had a photographer go out and do like the photography, right? And then it's just really when we were about to close, and the buyers didn't mention this at all. I was going back through the photos to find something, and I noticed that the fireplace had fire in it. And I was like, that's not a working fireplace. How is there fire in it? And I called him, and he goes, well, I just added the fire because the fireplace. And I'm like, it's capped at the top, dude, like you can't do that. And like he wasn't aware. Yeah. And so you got to pay attention to some of those AI stuff, right? And back then there wasn't the AI. He just added fire in the fireplace, and it looked great, but it didn't dawn on me that I didn't catch it in the beginning. The buyers didn't have a problem with it, but still, you got to watch out some of this stuff to where maybe the photos aren't always what it seems to be.
More today.
Yeah, and what about try to like make the photos kind of to where it's not. Let down when you go to the property, right? You're not disappointed.
Yeah.
I think you got to leave some things in there to where you're like, oh, this is a really nice property, and you don't build it up in your head before you get there, and you're always these red flags that happen.
Well, you used to take clients out to see houses, and you don't want that to be the house where because it's like big backyard.
Yeah.
not a great kitchen. There's always something that makes them remember which
The
house.
nickname,
You don't
yeah.
want it to be the house that didn't look like the photos.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
'Cause that's on you.
No, well, we've had that called the Catfish house.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. All right. Listen, you see that phone number at the bottom of your screen, 697-4636, justin.eagent.com. That's Justin Allen with eAgent. Give them a call if you just have questions.
Yep.
If you're looking to become an investor, if you want to partner with an investor, you want to sell your house or buy a house. You saw the one that you have there on Washington Avenue near Bayview. Great school district. Are definitely wonderful elementary, middle schools.
Oh, yeah.
Right there in that area of Bayview. So give them a call and he'll be able to get you on the path to homeownership or investorship.
That's right.
Depending on what you're looking for, Justin. Good to
Either
see
one.
you. We'll see you right back here on the next Expert Alert.
Thank you for joining us for Expert Alert. We'll feature more experts at the same time on Thursday in 2 weeks.